Hi.
All right, welcome back, guys. Today we are talking about the books that I read in January. We are officially in 2024, and I made a promise to myself this year that I was really going to take my time and enjoy reading. I want to just be really intentional about the books I'm reading. I want to have fun with it. I don't want to feel like I'm rushing or I'm in a race to read as many books as possible. I don't want to read a book just because it's popular or it just came out or because I feel pressured to read it. Like, I just want to relax this year, and that is what I did. So I just read a handful of books and I honestly had a really good time. So yeah, I'm just gonna get right into it. I loved Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter last year. That was one of my favorite books I read. It's one of my favorite rom-coms of all time at this point, honestly. So I knew this year I wanted to read more of her backlist. So I started out by picking up The Do-Over and Mr. Wrong Number, and I just love Lynn Painter. There's something about her. I really have like gotten out of rom-coms, I feel like, because I just felt like they were all kind of running together in my mind. They all just felt like the same story over and over. I just like wasn't feeling anything. They were all just really quirky. I don't know. I just kind of felt that way, and her books just are like a breath of fresh air. They just truly give me the warm and fuzzies. They just give you that like first love kind of feeling, and she's really good at writing YA romance. And Better Than the Movies was a YA romance. The Do-Over was a YA romance, and I think that's really where she shines, because Mr. Wrong Number was an adult rom-com and it was definitely good, but there's just something about the like butterflies and rainbows of her little like high school love stories. And this book really surprised me. I read it in one sitting. I was on a road trip, actually, kind of coming back from Christmas, from vacation. I read this entire thing in the car without putting it down. First of all, so cute. This is the Barnes & Noble special edition, but this story is one of those like Groundhog's Day type of books that you kind of have seen over and over, whether it's in books or movies or whatever. But you know, the Groundhog's Day concept of like waking up and living the same day over and over again. But this has like a fun like Valentine's Day twist to it, so I definitely recommend reading it right now, essentially beginning of February around Valentine's Day. Like, I read it in December, but still it's cute regardless. It's pretty much about this girl, I don't even remember her name, Emily. She has been dating this guy and she's like really obsessed with Valentine's Day, and she's excited to like have this perfect day with him. She's gonna tell him that she loves him. She also at the same time has had like a lot of stuff going on with her family, like figuring out college. Like, she has this scholarship she's waiting on. Her parents are separated and her dad kind of has this job situation he's figuring out. There's just a lot of things at once kind of happening in her life, and she's thinking she's gonna have this perfect day, but it just starts going wrong right from the beginning. She ends up actually getting in a car crash, which you see on the front of the cover, on her way to school, and she rear ends her chemistry partner. They have been partners in chemistry all year, but they've really like not talked at all. Like, he's always just been really like quiet and grumpy around her, and she kind of just assumed that he hated her. But she runs into his car, and that's how her day sort of starts. And then from there, everything just kind of like snowballs. Like, her Valentine's Day is the worst Valentine's Day you can imagine, in her love life, in her family life, in her school life. Just everything goes wrong, and she ends up going to sleep, waking up, and it's Valentine's Day once again. It's one of those stories. So you kind of see that pattern of like every day she's like living it again, and she's like, what's going on? Like, why am I stuck in this time loop? And she, you know, tries to like get the perfect day over and over. Like, she wants to make everything right and work out, but then she starts to realize like it's just gonna repeat no matter what, so I'm gonna just do whatever the heck I want. Like, there's gonna be no like consequences. So it's one of those stories, and it was so freaking cute. And she starts out with this one boy, but then you've got this other boy in the picture that you just kind of never saw coming, and it was just so freaking cute. Like, when it ended and you kind of realized like what happened and why time was looping, it totally surprised me, caught me off guard. I just thought it was gonna be like a cute little Valentine's Day themed story, but I actually really love this one, so definitely recommend checking it out. But Mr. Wrong Number I read right after, actually, in the same road trip. Also pretty much read it in one sitting. This one was definitely cute. The guy in it is inspired by Ryan Gosling's character in Crazy Stupid Love, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So Jacob Palmer and his suit, he's like this suave, like smooth businessman, and he's just like totally embodies that character. But in this story, this girl ends up moving in with her brother because something goes wrong. I think she gets like she gets like broken up with, and her apartment, she like catches her apartment on fire. So long story short, she like needs a place to stay. So she's crashing with her brother, who lives with the Ryan Gosling, Jacob Palmer sort of character. And she has never really liked him. They've kind of always like not really gotten along. He's just they're very polar opposite, I guess you could say. But she's like a writer, and she's just trying to like figure out her life, start over after this like breakup that she's been through. So this is totally like a forced proximity situation where she's living around this guy. And also at the same time, the whole premise of the story, like you think I would mention that first, Mr. Wrong Number, right as she's like starting this new journey, she ends up getting a text from this phone number that she doesn't have in her phone, that she doesn't recognize. And it's right at the start of the story, and it's from this guy. Basically, you could tell he's like trying to initiate a booty call situation. So she replies to him being like, what the heck, like just trying to like mess with him. And the two of them end up like sort of forming this funny little like pen pal relationship where they don't know each other, they don't know their names, they don't know anything about one another, but they just kind of like text here and there. Like every once in a while they text about their day, or if they have like a question, or if they're on like a crappy date. So it's pretty freaking obvious, like you figured out like pretty much right away that the wrong number is coming from the brother's best friend that lives in the apartment that she's living in. So it's a cute concept, you know, it's obviously like not super realistic, but it's got that like brother's best friend forbiddenness. It's got the forced proximity. It gets a little spicy. Like this is an adult rom-com versus her YA rom-com. So definitely just like an easy read. It was fun. It wasn't like my favorite thing I've ever read. I definitely preferred the do-over and better than the movies, but it was fun. It was cute. It was like a little bit sexy and flirty. I definitely liked it. Then after my little Lynn Painter start to the year, I jumped into Keeping 13 because on that same vacation, same road trip, I read Binding 13, and I will not get into this because I have made a massive video talking about both of these books. So if you want to know like all the details, you can go and watch that. But this is the second book to this couple's story in the Boys of Tommen world, which basically follows these boys, these girls that go to this college in Ireland in the early 2000s called Tommen College. The 13 story, so like the numbers have to do with like the boys like jersey numbers, their rugby numbers, whatever. So Binding 13 and Keeping 13 is Johnny and Shannon's story, and it's pretty much follows Shannon, who has this horrible family life, the worst I've ever read, and an even worse life at school. She's been bullied her, you know, entire life, and she ends up transferring to Tommen College because it's kind of like a last resort. She's going to this private school hoping that things will be better, and that's where she runs into Johnny, who is the star rugby player, not just at this college but in all of Ireland. He's very well known. He's going to like go on and like play for the national team, and Johnny has always been laser focused on rugby. Like that is literally his body is a machine. He's like has nutritionists, he's on a schedule, he trains every single day and night, like that's all he focuses on. But him and Shannon end up having like a not so meet cute moment where she's walking across the rugby pitch, and he throws a ball and it like hits her in the back of the head, and that's where they initially meet. But there is so much to this story. It's such a big friend group. There are all these books to come in this world that follow different characters, and you get the same scenes from different points of view, and it's just like it's the most found family book I think I've ever read. There's a lot. There's some very dark subject matter in this book. It's a very heavy read. It's a very sad read at times, but the friendships, the dialogue, just like the building of, you know, all these characters and how you see them like get closer and closer, and you start to feel like by the end of the story that like they're all of your best friends. I just loved it. But if you want to know more details, like I said, I made a whole video talking about Binding 13 and Keeping 13. The first half is without spoilers, so if you want more info, you can go and watch that. But yeah, definitely in my Boys of Tommen era this year, I'm going to be reading Saving 6, Redeeming 6 this month. I'm planning to start it, so just be prepared to be sick of me, but this series is really something special. Honestly, after jumping into the Boys of Tommen world, I was like, I don't know where to go from here. I kind of felt like I was in a slump. Like when you read such like an epic book, and these books are long, like they are each like 650 pages, have very tiny writing. I'm like, how do I just like jump into another standalone novel? Like I don't know how to do that. I feel like I have kind of like a hole in my chest. So I just kind of wanted to return to a comfort read, and I actually ended up rereading Balance by Lucia Franco. This was one of my favorite books, favorite series last year. I just love this book. I think about it all the time. It is so different from anything else we've talked about thus far. It is very, you know, spicy, very taboo. The most forbidden thing I've ever read. It's about a gymnast and her coach, but the coach just happens to be like her father's sort of friend slash business partner. There's like a 15-year age gap. He definitely is in a relationship. There's just a whole power dynamic. Everything that could be wrong about this is wrong, but it's also just like the hottest thing I've ever read in my life. I could go on and on. I've never read spice like Lucia Franco spice, especially when it comes to this series. If you're really just looking for something that's like, if you just want to go off your rocker, if you're like, look, I haven't felt anything in a long time, I need something, like I am reading the filthiest, most ridiculous spice I've ever read and like it's not phasing me, like you need to read Lucia Franco, because I'm telling you, like pages and pages and pages of the most like descript details you can imagine. Descript? Is that a word? The descript? I'm trying to say like specific detail. Literally, sometimes do you just like forget how to speak English, because that happens to me frequently. Anyways, it's a very spicy book, but it's also, I mean, I was about to be like, the plot's so good. The plot is good, but also you're just there for this like 5-book arc of this coach and this gymnast and what they go through. Like she's transferred to this elite gym, trying to go to the Olympics, like putting everything she has into it, so they spend like so much time together and the tensions just rise. And even though they're like constantly like back and forth with one another, like I hate you, I love you, I hate you, like they have to spend every day together, and like he's her coach and he's holding her future like in his hands in a way, and she's like not about to let him stop her. Like there's just so much to it. I'm just telling you, it's not gonna be for everyone, but like if you're into this sort of thing, it's so good. I'm literally rereading it because I have not stopped thinking about it. I read it for the first time last January 2023, and now here I am. I'm just gonna casually kind of like reread this series. It's kind of just like my nighttime Kindle read, honestly. Like before I go to bed, I'll just read like a few chapters, and yeah, I love it. So this next book I am so excited about. I'm so excited to tell you guys about it, but I'm just excited in general because it's one of my best friend's books, Hate You Up Close by Morgan Page. It comes out February 8th. I got to read it before everyone else, which is so exciting. But yeah, Morgan's one of my best friends, but she's also such a good author. You guys would probably remember me talking about Ruled Out and Love You From Afar last year. This book is actually sort of like the follow-up slash duet book to Love You From Afar. It is a standalone, but Love You From Afar was basically a story about a girl and her fiance's brother. There's a lot to it. It's very good, but you'll have to just read that story to kind of understand. But in that book, the fiance, his name is Elliot, he is really like kind of the villain of the story in a way. You kind of just absolutely hate him by the end of the book, but this story is actually Elliot's story. So it's kind of like his redemption arc, what happens after Love You From Afar, now that he's lost his fiance to his brother. He is like a total businessman, total jerk, like he's just like so hardened and such an asshole that you're like, what is wrong with you? Like, honestly, who hurt you? Like, he's one of those guys you see on TikTok where you're just like, who hurt you? Well, you learn in this story who hurt him, and throughout that experience, you also get to meet Roxy, who is his new assistant. He's in need of a new assistant. He can't keep anybody working for him because, like I said, he's an asshole. And she gets hired because actually his fiance from the first book works with him. So she is in HR and she knows, like, there's a lot to it, guys, just trust me, but she knows, like, okay, this girl, she can put up with Elliot. She will put him in his place. She will not let him walk all over her. So Roxy comes in, is his new assistant, and they just have this like tumultuous relationship right from the beginning of just like, he tries to be rude to her, she doesn't put up with it, and they just have like so much back and forth and so much tension. And I love an office romance. I'm telling you, it just hits for me every single time because there's just such a forced proximity to it. Again, like where you have to just be together every single day, even if you don't like each other, you work together, and there's that power dynamic of like, he's her boss. But yeah, every trope that you love about that kind of story is in this book and done so well, and it's so spicy and so hot, but also very like emotional, and when you like learned what happened to him in the past and it all sort of like comes together in the end, it just like is tied in a beautiful bow. And I've loved all of Morgan's books, but Elliot is my favorite mailman character. Like, I am obsessed with him. He made me so angry, but then he had me like laughing out loud at his internal monologue, and oh my god, he's just so hot. He's so hot. And yeah, I loved it. I'm so excited for it to come out. You guys should go and read Love You From Afar now to prepare for Hate You Up Close coming out in a few days. You don't have to, but like, you will appreciate Elliot's story so much more if you meet him in that book and you like understand and you get to like experience the roller coaster of like hating him to like being obsessed with him, because that's what happened to me and it was just so fun. So yeah, check it out. And the last book I read this month was kind of an interesting one. I have had this book in the back of my mind for years now. I have been recommended this book so many times by you guys on this channel and my Instagram DMs. So many people constantly ask me if I've read this book, because I think you guys just know it's very up my alley based on like the kind of tropes surrounding it. And I kind of put it off because I was just like, I feel like it's gonna hurt me. Like, I want to read it, but I just want to be in the right headspace. Like, I don't know. And I finally did it. It was If He Had Been With Me by Laura. I don't know if it's Nowlin or Nolan. It's spelled like now, but yeah, this book, just the cover alone, like the broken lollipop, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna do something to me. And I have to say, reading it, it wasn't at all what I thought it was gonna be. Like, I had a general idea sort of surrounding what this book was about. I knew it was supposed to be like very sad and like heartbreaking, but it just wasn't written in the typical way that I am used to for this kind of story, and kind of the way that I prefer. It basically follows this girl named Autumn. The entire thing is told from her point of view, and she grew up with this boy named Phineas. Her mom and Phineas's moms were best friends, and Phineas's mom actually is a single mom, so they spent like all their holidays together. They actually ended up like moving in right next door, so they were around each other their entire lives growing up. And you know, now they're going into high school, and you can tell that like they've just sort of grown apart. Like, there's just something between them. There's just like these awkward vibes. They're in two very separate sort of friend groups. Like, Phineas is very popular in this sort of like more traditional way, but then Autumn is popular in this other group that honestly is kind of the like pretentious, kind of odd popular people. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Like, that's how she explains it herself. Autumn is honestly kind of like an insufferable character, and I hate to say that, but she just like was so frustrating to me throughout this entire book. And she's just kind of like, I don't know, she wears a tiara every day, like different ones that match her outfit. So I don't know if that tells you anything, but she's just kind of like, she's a little different, but like in a way that she thinks it's like cool. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. And she has this whole friend group that you kind of hate all of them, but in this story, like you kind of see her just like daily life. Like, she has this boyfriend, Phineas has this girlfriend, and her and Phineas aren't really talking. So the entire like first half of the book is just kind of like going through her years of high school and like her relationship with this boy Jamie. And she has a lot of like mental health issues as well. A lot of that kind of stemming, I feel like, from her home life. Her parents' relationship is not very good. It's kind of just been her whole life. Her parents have not gotten along. Her dad is kind of never home, and they're always fighting. And I think that's kind of given her a lot of like abandonment issues, attachment issues. And so you kind of see that playing through with her relationship with this boy Jamie. And you, throughout the book, like you kind of like see her talking about Phineas, and you don't really get to see what happened between them, which is something that I love. I love a book like this where it's like a friends to strangers kind of story, where you flash back to the past and you see like those scenes play out and what happened. But this is a book that kind of tells you rather than shows you. So the whole time you're like, oh, like she has this like love for Phineas, or she did, but they're not friends anymore and they don't really even talk anymore. But she's constantly kind of like thinking about him, but she loves this boy Jamie, and she's like, we're gonna get married. So you're just like, what is going on? Like, what is the deal? And honestly, I was thinking strongly about DNFing this book, and I would have if it wasn't for all of the people that seem to like love it and that have recommended it to me. I'm like, I'm gonna trust the process here, and I'm glad that I did. But I will tell you, it takes halfway through this book for anything really of interest to happen. Like, I was just like, what am I like reading? Like, what is going on? Like, I want her and Phineas, like, I want to see something between them. Like, what happens? So about halfway through the book, you kind of see them start to slowly kind of make their way back into each other's lives again. And yeah, the ending of this book like stabbed me in the chest. It has a very tragic ending, which you know that ending is coming because it's like the first chapter of the book. You see it. It's like, it's one of those books where the first chapter is what happens, and then you see that same chapter later now that you've put all the pieces together and you like know what happens. But it continues to get even sadder from there, and it's like, it's not a happy ending. It's not a happy ending at all, but it's just one of those books where you like build up and you wait for something to happen and then it hurts you, which I don't mind. Honestly, I like a book like that from time to time because like it's real and it's like, damn, like I like to like make me feel something. And it certainly did. It caught me off guard. It's a very like YA sort of story. I will say that. It's a very young adult story. There were some aspects of it where I was just like, are we being for real right now? Overall, like, I just don't know how I feel about it. Like the last probably 100 pages, I was like, oh, this book, like it's good. Like I was flying through it, and when like they finally, you know, when they find their way truly back to each other and things happen, like that scene, I was just like, okay, like maybe I could be in love. I don't know. Like it's one of those stories, but overall, like I would say I was kind of disappointed with it. I don't know. It's kind of a boring story. Like I don't know how else to put it. The chapters are really short, and it's just like a lot of like short interactions of things happening and things happening in her friend group. And I mean, it's kind of relatable in that sense of like, you see how friendship groups play out in high school and how people are closer and they grow apart and relationships make things weird, and you know, you just growing up is just strange and not really just like wanting to fit in. Like it has a lot of themes that are very sort of like relatable to the high school experience, so I appreciated that. But yeah, overall, like I don't know, I didn't love it. Like I'd maybe give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I'm not really a star girl. I don't love to give stars, but I'm just trying to like express to you how I feel. So yeah, if you want to read something sad, if you want to read something that kind of like catches you off guard at the end, maybe check it out. But I thought I was gonna love it. I thought it was gonna be like a new all-time favorite, and I just don't feel that way about it. But yeah, guys, those are the books that I read in the month of January. If you read any of these, I would love to hear all your thoughts down below. If you read anything else you loved, you know the drill. Let me know if I should read it. But yeah, guys, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.